see is the battle. You see my victory. When all I see is the mountain, you see a mountain move. And as I walk through the shadow, your love surrounds me. There's nothing to fear now, for I am safe with you. So when I fight, I'll fight on my knees, with my hands lifted high. Oh God, the battle belongs to you. Every fear I lay at your feet. I'll sing through the night. Oh God, the battle belongs to you. Belongs to you. And if you are for me, who can be against me? For Jesus, there's nothing impossible for you. So when I fight, I'll fight on my knees, with my hands lifted high. Oh God, the battle belongs to you. And every fear I lay at your feet, and I'll sing through the night. Oh God, the battle belongs to you. And oh God, the battle belongs to you. And oh God, the battle belongs to you.
Good morning, one and all, and welcome to Sermon Time with me, Pastor Tony, where we are going to talk about the great harvest. Now, we're coming up on a favorite holiday for many, certainly a favorite holiday of mine, Thanksgiving. And what better way to celebrate this happy occasion than with the study of the book of Revelation? Now, you may have never made this connection before, but it just so happens that the portion of our study in Revelation today is about two great harvests. But of course, we're not focusing on the harvest of edible plants. We are focused here on the harvest of human lives. For background, we need to start our study in Matthew chapter 13, verse 39, where Jesus is telling a parable, and he speaks about a harvest of the earth taking place, and he tells us when it will happen, at the end of the world. The enemy who sowed these evil seeds is the devil. The harvest is the end of the world, and the reapers are the angels. In this parable, Jesus said both good seeds and bad seeds were sown, cast into the earth. And in the end, both seeds produce their predetermined plants. The good plants are gathered in, and the bad plants, well, the tares are gathered and burned in the fire. So it will be at the end of the world. So there are two harvests, good plants and bad plants, according to Jesus. Well, in Revelation 14, our study today, also pictures this two-part harvest. But to see this, it's going to take a little work. If you were to do a flyover look at Revelation chapter 14, there seems to be an assembly of all kinds of different elements in the chapter. You have the 144,000 singing a new song. You have the three angels' messages about the everlasting gospel and judgment on Babylon and those with the mark of the beast. You have the background of commandment keeping and breaking. And then you have two simultaneous harvests of the earth. All kinds of imagery is being used. It's almost as if God looked into his bag of symbols and just emptied everything that was left in it into chapter 14. It's a tough chapter to get your mind around for all the imagery. But we're going to muscle through it anyway today. The thing that ties this chapter together is the theme of harvest. It seems in this chapter that those who are harvested represent those who are living at the end of time, the time of Christ's return. It includes both righteous and wicked people, but as we will see, not all who are harvested in. In fact, there are 3 different groups who participate in one or the other of these 2 harvests. Revelation 14:4 depicts the first group, the 144,000. These are the ones who follow the Lamb wherever he goes. These were redeemed from among men, being first fruits to God and to the Lamb. The 144,000 are an end-time, last generation group who represent the Lord's special people, his remnant, who keep the commandments of God and have the faith of Jesus. Here, they are called the first fruits. They have the seal of God, the Father's name in their forehead, which represents his character reproduced in them. And they are described in the purest of terms. And there is something they are doing. They are singing a new song. And we'll come back to that before we finish our message today, what that means, that new song, I promise. These are harvested in. The second group of people who are harvested in are those from every nation, tribe, tongue, and people who hear the everlasting gospel and accept it. Revelation 14:6 depicts how this happens. Then I saw another angel flying in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel to preach to those who dwell on the earth, to every nation, tribe, tongue, and people. So you have the 144,000 and those who believe the gospel. The harvest of these 2 righteous groups, the 144,000 and this multitude from every tribe, tongue, and people of the earth, take part in the first harvest we spoke of, found in Revelation chapter 14, verses 14 to 16. Then I looked, and behold, a white cloud, and on the cloud sat one like the Son of Man. That's Jesus, having on his head a golden crown. This is a victor's crown, and in his hand a sharp sickle. And another angel came out of the temple, crying with a loud voice to him who sat on the cloud, "Thrust in your sickle and reap, for the time has come for you to reap, for the harvest of the earth is ripe." It's ready, right? So he who sat on the throne thrust in his sickle on the earth, and the earth was reaped. So the chapter starts with first fruits, and it ends with harvest. And the thing that is between these 2 is the 3 angels' messages. First comes 144,000, then the 3 angels' messages, then comes the harvest of the earth. Now there's another part to this harvest, right? The harvest of the wicked. And it's found in verses 17 to 20. Then another angel came out of the temple, which is in heaven, he also having a sharp sickle. And another angel came out from the altar, who had power over fire, and he cried with a loud cry to him who had the sharp sickle, saying, "Thrust in your sharp sickle, and gather the clusters of the vine of the earth, for her grapes are fully ripe." So the angel thrust his sickle into the earth and gathered the vine of the earth, and threw it into the great winepress of the wrath of God. And the winepress was trampled outside the city, and blood came out of the winepress up to the horses' bridles for 1,600 furlongs. This depicts the gathering of the wicked, and they are harvested for destruction, kind of like the tares we read about in Jesus' story. So, to summarize Revelation 14, there are 3 groups of people who are harvested. The 144,000, also called the first fruits, the rest of the living righteous who are reaped or gathered in after the proclamation of the gospel, and those among the living who are wicked, who they are gathered to be destroyed, what we might call squashed grapes. Let's talk about each of these groups. So obviously the first 2 groups represent God's people. The 144,000 follow the Lamb wherever he goes and are seen as standing with God on Mount Zion. But who are those who are gathered in as a result of the gospel? How did they become believers? In Revelation 7, we are first introduced to these same two groups, 144,000 and the multitude without number from every nation, tribe, tongue, and people. These two groups were introduced to us in response to a question the wicked asked in the sixth seal at the end of chapter 6 as they faced the reality of their own judgment. Revelation 6, verses 15 to 17, and the kings of the earth, the great men, the rich men, the commanders, the mighty men, every slave and every free man, hid themselves in the caves and in the rocks of the mountains, and said to the mountains and rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of him who sits on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of his wrath has come, and who is able to stand? Do you see the question there? Who is able to stand in the great day of God's wrath? And that question at the end of chapter 6 is answered for us in Revelation 7. And there are two groups who are able to stand, the 144,000 and the multitude without number. We are reading Revelation 7, verses 3 and 4, where a voice from heaven is heard saying, do not harm the earth, the sea, or the trees until we have sealed the servants of our God on their foreheads. And I heard the number of those who were sealed. 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel were sealed. Right? Don't harm the earth until we seal the 144,000. So, in Revelation 7, the 144,000 are not yet sealed, but they are about to be. And once they are ready for the earth's judgment. They are ready for their harvest. But there's another group who is able to stand in the great day of God's wrath. In Revelation 7, verses 9 and 14, that other group is described. After these things I looked, and behold, a great multitude, which no one could number, of all nations, tribes, peoples, and languages, standing, right? They're standing before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes, with palm branches in their hands. These are the ones who come out of the great tribulation and wash their robes and make them white in the blood of the Lamb. So, both the 144,000 and the multitude without number are end-time groups. They are able to stand in the great day of God's wrath. These two groups make up that first harvest we read about in Revelation 14, the harvest of the righteous. And we will differentiate between these two groups, these two righteous groups, in just a minute. But first, let's look at the squashed grapes. How does one end up a squashed grape? There is only one way I know. They reject the everlasting gospel. When the everlasting gospel goes to every nation, kindred, tongue, and people, everyone on earth will have the opportunity to hear and know the truth. It doesn't mean that everyone will benefit from hearing and knowing the truth, but they will have the opportunity. When I think about where we are at as a world, as a church, with radio, TV, literature, internet, satellites, missionaries, and a generous visionary church who seizes every opportunity available to them to get the message to the people, I get very excited about the possibility that we have come to that generation that is going to finish the gospel commission. They will preach the gospel to every creature, every man, woman, and child, and the end will come. And I believe with all my heart, we are that generation. Not only is every bad sign in Bible prophecy quickly being fulfilled, with nations rising against nations, wars, rumors of wars, earthquakes and natural disasters all over the place, pestilence and plagues, unrest in the political world, the natural world, the social world, the economic world, and the religious world. Not only are all the bad signs being fulfilled, but so are the good ones. We see amongst this morass of evil the emergence of the 144,000 who perfectly represent their Heavenly Father to their world. They shine for Him. They have His character in them. And when we see them, we see Him. By life and message, they are authentically proclaiming the everlasting gospel, the good news, the truth with power to a world that is otherwise wrapped in the devil's lies, with a deceptive religion and a vicious state power behind it. The world is brought to a decision, and while their freedom, their individual freedom of choice is maintained, they are forced, nevertheless, to a decision. To be saved, they must choose Christ. Indifference Not choosing is making a choice to go the easy route, down the broad road that Jesus spoke of that leads to destruction, and many there be that find it. But the opportunity to choose life, to choose salvation, is open to everyone. The full provision of redemption that Jesus has offered the human race is made plain to all. But though all may have it, few there be that choose it. And this is why there is a second harvest, squashed grapes. They are gathered by their choice to be burned. In addition to our passage here in Revelation 14, the Bible describes this day in a variety of places when the wicked come to their end. Let's quickly run through them. Malachi 4:1, "For behold, the day is coming, burning like an oven, and all the proud, yes, all who do wickedly, will be stubble. And the day which is coming shall burn them up, says the Lord of hosts, that will leave them neither root nor branch." So a day is coming when a fire from God will destroy all the wicked completely. That day is the day Jesus returns to this earth. This connection of the fiery destruction of the wicked to the second coming of Jesus is made in 1 Thessalonians 1, verses 8 to 10. "In flaming fire, taking vengeance on those who do not know God, and on those who do not obey the gospel of our Lord Jesus Christ. These shall be punished with everlasting destruction from the presence of the Lord and from the glory of his power when he comes in that day to be glorified in his saints." Notice, they had the opportunity to know the gospel, but they did not obey it. And when Jesus comes, the wicked die on this day, and the righteous, it says, are glorified. Two harvests, if you will. The reason the wicked are destroyed is shared in chapter 2. 2 Thessalonians 2, verses 8 to 10. "And then the lawless one will be revealed, whom the Lord will consume with the breath of his mouth and destroy with the brightness of his coming. The coming of the lawless one is according to the working of Satan, with all power, signs, and lying wonders, and with all unrighteous deception among those who perish, because they did not receive the love of the truth, that they might be saved." Those who are consumed by the brightness of God at his coming are those who did not receive the love of the truth. They were presented the truth, but they did not receive it or love it. They preferred instead the unrighteous deception, that is, the deception that left them in their unrighteous state. These, the wicked, are destroyed by that same presence. 2 Peter 3:10 explains further, "But the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in which the heavens will pass away with a great noise, and the elements will melt with fervent heat. Both the earth and the works that are in it will be burned up." So not only the wicked, but this wicked planet will be destroyed and become uninhabitable and uninhabited. In the end of the world, the wicked are again left outside of the safety of God's end-time ark. But it's just not a flood this time, and that destroys them. It's the Shekinah glory of God. It is the brightness of his presence. And this is the thing about the glory of God's presence. If we come to it, when we seek it, when we pursue it with the longing to be like him, that Shekinah will change us. It will consume away our sin and purify our hearts. But when we do not pursue it, rest assured, it will catch up with us. The wicked neglect to come to the light of God's presence, and one day that brightness will overtake their darkness, and it will consume them. I do not share this with you in order to terrify you. I share this with you so that you will choose the better path, the one that ends with you purified and alive when Jesus comes. It's time for a great passage from a book I absolutely love, The Desire of Ages, the book, the best book on the life and teachings of Christ. And I'm on page 107. "To sin wherever found. Our God is a consuming fire. Hebrews 12:29. In all who submit to his power, the Spirit of God will consume sin. But if men cling to their sin, they become identified with it. Then the glory of God, which destroys sin, must destroy them. It isn't that God hates sinful people. He isn't coming to this earth because he hates the wicked and wants to get them. That is not why they are destroyed by the brightness of his coming. He's coming to this earth to get his people, and the wicked are destroyed because they are so unlike him. They have slighted every opportunity provided to their wicked existence to be transformed by God throughout their life, and in the end, they cannot endure his presence. It's just how it is. Sin and sinners cannot endure the presence of God. And friends, while God's presence is their destruction, it is our salvation, because that same destructive power of God can come into our life today, and it can consume every vestige of sin from our lives today. To sin, wherever found, our God is a consuming fire. We want this fire to come into our life. We want this fire to burn away every trace of sin from our life. It is what removes sin from us. We let go of our sin. We surrender it to God. We relinquish our hold on it. We separate ourselves from it. We bring our sin problem to God to have him destroy it. And according to Hebrews 12:29, God burns it to HE double hockey sticks. It's kind of like how to best avoid getting a sunburn, right? Sunscreen aside, there are two natural ways to avoid getting a sunburn. Stay out of the sun altogether, right? Never expose yourself to the sun, and sure enough, you will never get a sunburn. But two, you will never benefit from the many advantages that result from modest exposure to the sun. Vitamin D production, cholesterol reduction, increase in melatonin and endorphin, producing restful sleep and happy days, increases to our immune system, and a really cool tan. Okay, I'm speaking to the white folks here. Nevertheless, this is one way to avoid a sunburn. Just stay out of the sun. Don't expose yourself to it at all. Now, I know what some will say, I have lupus, or I have such and such a condition, I cannot be in the sun. Folks, this is just an analogy, okay? Stick with me here. Think analogy, all right? Exposure to the sun, preferable. The other way to avoid a sunburn is to regularly and for short periods of time expose yourself to it. When you begin, it's for a few minutes every day, and the times of the day when the sun is low on either horizon, either morning or late afternoon. And as you increase your exposure to the sun, eventually you can be in the sun any time of day for as long as you like. The exposure is there. The benefits are there, and the chance of sunburn is reduced to nothing. The parallels to spiritual things in this analogy are evident. We can benefit from regular yet limited exposure of our soul to Christ. Bring whatever is wrong here to him every day, a little here and a little there. Open yourself up to him. Talk to him about what's really going on the inside. Let the sunshine of his glory strike you over and over again. And as you do this, there will be less and less of you to burn away. We, through this very process, become more like him, for it is by beholding, by conversing with him, by learning from him, by surrendering to him, by relinquishing our hold on Christ, by relinquishing our hold on sin, and keeping our hold on Christ, we become changed. And as I said, this is our salvation. Now, there are several in my congregations that have not heard my message of October 9 in the book of Revelation, which provided the evidence for the fact that the 144,000 are the ones proclaiming the three angels' messages. And this is a very important piece of the puzzle to our understanding of Revelation 14 and our understanding of what it means to be the 144,000. So if you have heard that message already, then you can just skip to the end of this message. But if not, or if you would like a review, a review of this, I present the evidence to you here. To understand that the 144,000 are the ones proclaiming the first angel's message, we need to remember one thing about the 144,000, and it's found in Revelation 14:3. They sang, as it were, a new song before the throne, before the four living creatures and the elders, and no one could learn that song except the 144,000. All right, so the 144,000 sang this new song, and no one but they could learn it. Tuck that thought away, would you? Because even though Revelation 14 doesn't say the 144,000 preached the first angel's message, right here, John is casting his line into the Old Testament, and plop, it's landing into a psalm, into Psalm 96. And the 96th Psalm tells us the content of the new song that only the 144,000 can sing. And what we're going to discover is the new song is identical to the first angel's message. Let's review the first angel's message real quick, and then we'll read Psalm 96. We learned that the everlasting gospel is preached to every nation, tribe, tongue, and people. The message is fear God, give glory to him. The hour of his judgment has come. Worship him who made the heavens, the earth, the sea, and springs of water. Okay, so 5 parts. And that is the first angel's message. Now notice these same 5 parts are in the 96th Psalm. Okay? Notice what the new song is. Oh, sing to the Lord a what? A new song. Sing to the Lord who? All the earth. Sing to the Lord, bless his name, proclaim the good news, the gospel of his salvation from day to day. Declare his glory among the nations, his wonders among all peoples. For the Lord is great and greatly to be praised. He is to be feared above all gods. For all the gods of the peoples are idols, but the Lord made the heavens. Dropping down a verse, give to the Lord, O families of the peoples, give to the Lord glory and strength. Give to the Lord the glory due his name. Oh, worship the Lord in the beauty of holiness. Tremble before him, all the earth. Say among the nations, the Lord reigns. The world also is firmly established. It shall not be moved. He shall judge the peoples righteously, for he is coming to judge the earth. He shall judge the world with righteousness and the peoples with his truth. All right. So in Psalm 96, you have a new song where every element of the first angel's message is present, right? Fear God, give glory to him, the hour of his judgment has come, and worship him who made. And we can safely conclude from this that the new song is the first angel's message. And remind me, in Revelation 14:3, who alone can sing the new song? The 144,000. And that is how we can know the 144,000 are identified in Bible prophecy as the last day proclaimers of the first angel's message. In fact, they are the proclaimers of all 3 angels' messages. If we are not doing everything we can to get the message out, then we are not the 144,000. But this gospel, we are told, will be preached as a witness to all the nations, and the end will come. It is a prophetic certainty. There will be a people who give this message of proclaiming the gospel to everyone who, with everything they've got, they will sacrifice their plans for greatness. They will forfeit doing anything that would interfere with the proclamation of the gospel. They invest time and money and thought and effort. They do not let the distractions of this world steal away their opportunities to witness, to preach, to teach, to touch, to heal, and to save a hurting world. We now need to know who we are. We are the remnant of Bible prophecy who keep the commandments of God and have the testimony and faith of Jesus. We have put everything we have into the proclamation of the gospel to the world in our generation. We are the 144,000 who follow the Lamb wherever he leads, who are having the character of God reproduced in them because day by day we have yielded our wayward, sinful hearts to God and have asked him to consume that mess away and to save us from our sin. We are the predicted church of the end time who are actually victorious and we will be rewarded eternally for the victories we have gained through Christ. And we are preparing our world for the next great thing God is going to do, the harvest of the earth. When God forever closes the chapter of Earth's history, its hideous experiment with sin. And he is about to open the next chapter, life lived as he had planned it to be all along. So friends, let us not grow weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we do not lose heart. We shall reap eternal life for ourselves, and we shall reap an abundant harvest for him, a multitude that no one can number, that will be forever saved because Jesus was with us to the end of the world and has worked in us and through us powerfully, clear through to the end of time. Remnant people of God, God bless us all as we commit ourselves fully to this task and to him. Happy Sabbath.